Hey, how's it going everyone? Nick here with another Predator video. This time we're going to be talking about one of my favorite characters from the series, Detective Mike Harrigan, played famously by Danny Glover in Predator 2. Detective Harrigan grew up on the streets of LA with his close friend Danny Archuleta. Throughout the events of Predator 2, we learn that Harrigan was a strong-headed police officer who believed in his morals above anything else, and he had a very impressive record in the LAPD, which unfortunately cost him his marriage among other relationships. In the film, he became obsessed with tracking down the city hunter after it murdered his friend Danny along with fellow officers part of his detective unit. And by the end of Predator 2, after Harrigan stands victorious over the city hunter, we leave Harrigan after his encounter with the Lost Tribe predators, with Garber upset that he ruined the entire government operation to capture a predator alive. Years later, fans still wondered what became of Harrigan, just like Dutch and the other Predator protagonists, and thanks to a new storyline, we actually know what really happened to Harrigan. As part of the 2017 anthology Predator If It Bleeds, one of the stories actually focuses on Harrigan 25 years after the events of Predator 2. The story, titled Drug War, takes place in 2022 Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, in a crowded favela and Rio Convention Center. In the story, Harrigan has just recently retired from the LAPD, and he meets up with Garber, who now deals in private weaponry under the company Legends Incorporated. The two meet up again at a weapons convention in Rio, and while discussing what they've done since the events of the original film, the two hear massive explosions and chaos going on outside in the favela, in which Harrigan looks through the scope of one of Garber's weapons and spots a skinned body, bringing back the nightmares they encountered 25 years before, of the Predator. The two realize that a Predator is now running rampant, killing locals inside of the favela, and jump to action alongside two local detectives named Ana Rios and Rodrigo Villaca. The two local detectives help Harrigan navigate the crowded favela, because if you guys aren't familiar with favelas, they can get pretty crazy and you can turn yourself around very easily. The favela proves to be a giant war zone as local militia and drug lords fight over each other and the Predator running around. At one point in the story, when Garber runs ahead to get a better angle on the Predator using one of his experimental grenade launcher weapons, he's blown to pieces when the Yautja hones in on his position and fires two plasma caster bolts right at him. At the end of the story, right as the Predator is surrounded by massive SWAT units and Harrigan finally reaching its position, it raises its chin up in defiance and begins to type on its wrist gauntlet to activate the self-destruct sequence that we've seen in almost every Predator film. Out of nowhere, the air shimmers and four more Predators appear, spears raised toward the rogue Yautja. But to Harrigan's surprise, these Yautja aren't there for the other humans, but rather for the Predator that's been running rampant throughout the favela. Harrigan turns towards the leader and the two meet eyes as he holds out a 3D cube of glass, which Harrigan then looks at and flashes an image of the Predator who's been in the favela. Harrigan realizes that this Predator is somewhat of a prisoner who's gone rogue, and these ones are here to serve as enforcers to bring him back to their homeworld. Harrigan gives them the go-ahead and tells the other humans to hold their fire, with the Predators disappearing into a mist. After the action-packed encounter, Harrigan jokingly tells the local detectives, just another day in Rio. The rogue Predator in this storyline was likely a bad blood, as he held no regard for whoever was in his crossfire during the story, and he didn't follow traditional hunting techniques. With this story being left open yet again for Harrigan, here's hoping that we can learn more about him in future stories, because like I mentioned, he's always been one of my favorite characters. I've always liked Danny Glover, and I thought he actually did a really good job with this film, and people don't give him nearly enough credit for Predator 2, because it's actually a really fun cop film mixed in with sci-fi elements of the Predator franchise. But drop your thoughts down in the comments below. What do you guys think about this? Like I mentioned, if you guys haven't read this story yet, I highly recommend you guys go check out Predator If It Bleeds, because what I've told you guys in this video is kind of the Cliff Notes version of the story. The actual thing is much more detailed and really awesome. For more updates on the Predator and everything pop culture, be sure to subscribe to HN Entertainment.